Long ago, there lived two brothers, Alibaba and Kazim. Kazim, the older one, had married a rich woman and lived in a large house. But Alibaba was a poor woodcutter who lived with his wife and children in a small house on the edge of town. Every day, Alibaba took his donkeys into the countryside to gather branches. He sold the wood in the market. Sometimes he and his wife Zobida had to ask Kazim for help, but all they got were a few crusts of bread and other leftovers. The market was a busy place, filled with small shops and food stalls. Little boys ran about sniffing the delicious smell of freshly baked pastry. Housewives and merchants argued over the price of everything, from bananas to a new carpet. Kazim's wife spent much time there, buying all sorts of expensive things. Alibaba often wished he had more money so that his own wife could buy pretty things too. "I must try to get some more wood to sell," he thought. One day, Alibaba decided to go much farther to look for wood. He found a small forest near some cliffs. "I can cut as much wood here as I like," he said to himself. But just as Alibaba said this, he saw a cloud of dust on the horizon. Suddenly he felt afraid. He was all alone and far from town. He quickly hid his donkeys in the wood, then climbed up a steep rock. Soon a troop of riders galloped up. Alibaba counted them, 40 fierce-looking men. To his amazement, the chief walked up to the cliff and shouted, "Open Sesame!" With a loud crash, the cliff opened up. Alibaba watched as all the men rode into the opening. Then the cliff closed by itself. He stayed where he was, frightened of being caught if he climbed down. At last, the cliff opened and the men rode out. "Shut, Sesame!" shouted the chief, and the cliff closed again. When they had gone, Alibaba fetched his donkeys. Then he stood in front of the cliff and shouted, "Open, Sesame!" With a roar, the cliff opened. Alibaba could hardly believe his eyes. He found himself in a cave filled with treasure. It was the robbers' hideout. Alibaba quickly loaded his donkey's basket with the gold coins. He ordered the rock to open. Once outside again, he shouted, "Shut, Sesame!" It was nearly dark when he reached home. "Where have you been?" asked Zobida. Alibaba showed her the gold. "We must bury it," said his wife. She ran to Kazim's house for a measuring jar. Kazim's wife was curious. What was Zobida measuring? She rubbed some sticky honey on the bottom of the jar. When Zobida returned the jar next day, there was a gold coin stuck to it. Kazim went straight to Alibaba. "Did you steal this gold?" Alibaba told him everything, offering to share the gold. "And so you should, after all I've done for you," said Kazim. Early the next morning, Kazim set off secretly with 10 mules. "Open, Sesame!" he shouted when he reached the rock. In he went, and the cliff closed again. Kazim loaded the mules with gold, but he was so excited that he forgot the magic word. When he was ready to go, he cried, "Open barley, open oats." Nothing happened. Soon the thieves rode up. Poor Kazim. The robbers killed him before he could escape. The next day, Kazim's wife came sobbing to Alibaba. "Where's Kazim?" Alibaba knew at once where his brother had gone. He took a donkey and went to the cliff. "Open sesame!" he cried. The rock swung open. To his horror, he saw Kazim's body. Alibaba brought Kazim home to his family. They gave him a proper burial, but told no one how he had died. Kazim's wife and her servant Marjana went to live with Alibaba and his family. Meanwhile, the thieves had returned. The body was gone. "Someone knows our secret," said the chief. "We must find him." Dressed as a merchant, the chief went to the town. "I'm looking for a rich business partner," he told people. "Try Alibaba," said the local shoemaker. "He pays everything with gold coins." Marjana was passing by just then. She heard the shoemaker and saw how the chief's eye lit up. "I hope he doesn't mean to harm my master," she thought. The chief asked the shoemaker to show him Alibaba's house. Then he hurried back to his men, who were camped outside the town. "Alibaba is the man. We'll soon be safe," he told them. "Tomorrow we'll get mules and 40 big jars. We'll put cooking oil in one jar. You will hide in the others. I'll pretend to be an oil merchant and ask Alibaba to give me lodging and store the jars in his courtyard. At night, I'll give you a signal and will kill him and his family." The robbers' eyes glowed fiercely in the firelight. They would have their revenge. By next evening, the chief was a guest in Alibaba's house, and the jars were stored in the courtyard. Marjana was cooking supper. "We have no more oil," she said to Zobida. "Get some from the jars in the yard," said her mistress. "Our guest won't mind." As Marjana came to the first jar, a voice whispered, "Is it time?" She had seen the merchant in the house, so she said, "Not yet," in a deep voice. She hurried from jar to jar. Only the last one had the cooking oil. Marjana went back to the kitchen and boiled some oil with poppy seed. She crept outside and poured some into each jar. The poppy fumes were very strong, and soon all the thieves were sound asleep. Clever Marjana slipped out of the house and ran to the captain of the guard. "There are robbers in my master's house," she cried. The captain and his men hurried off to Alibaba's house. In no time at all, they had captured the chief and rounded up the thieves.